Who knew that a simple mistake on my part would have nearly caused our roof to collapse? My wife and I had just bought a fixer-upper, and we were trying to get some needed remodeling done before we moved in. Our ambitious and overly confident vision included removing a pesky wall so we could open up the living room a bit more. On paper, it sounded simple enough, but in reality, we were completely in over our heads and we had no idea. Our contractor said he could do it, and in efforts to keep the already ballooning cost of construction down, I volunteered to get the materials from Home Depot in advance. On demolition day, the crew ripped out the wall as the lead contractor surveyed the lumber that I'd bought. Amid the sound of hammers and chainsaws, he concentrated as he checked every item off his list. Everything was going great until he stopped, raised his eyebrows in alarm, and ran to tell his team to cease immediately. Turns out I got the right lumber, but I did not get the right kind of brackets, which held it all together. And since this was a load-bearing wall, without the right brackets, the roof could collapse. As the crew switched gears and installed temporary support beams, the contractor and I raced to Home Depot. After we bought the right brackets, I had images of a collapsed roof racing through my mind as we headed home. Luckily, when we arrived, everything looked normal. With expert skill, his team installed the beams and the brackets, and voila, our living room was transformed. Hopeful vision that we had was now beginning to take shape. As his crew cleaned up for the day, the contractor patiently explained how the brackets I first bought were insufficient for the job at hand, and showed how the ones we purchased together were correct. He said, "I've done a lot of projects, and I can pretty much handle anything. But without the right materials, it doesn't matter what I know how to do. I'm stuck with what I got." As he drove away, I realized I learned a critical lesson. Let's get to how this connects to influence and success. When you boil it down, people don't accept or reject you. They accept or reject their perception of you. And the perceptions are made entirely of how you communicate and interact with them. In this situation, it was my job to provide the materials to enable him to do his job. However, when I didn't do my job, he couldn't do his. Similarly, when we want people to choose us over others, do you give them the right materials to form the best perception? Or are you forcing them to fill in the gaps? I was once introduced to a friend of mine. Let's call him, well, it was a friend of a friend, actually. I'm going to call him Mike, who was struggling in his career search. He had solid experience in sales roles and was applying to job after job to no avail. However, after months of work, he finally got an interview lined up with a healthcare software company. And our mutual friend recommended that we go to lunch and talk interview strategies. We met up, and as I suspected, his answers mirrored much of what I cover in my book as achievement mindset responses. He sufficiently proved he was smart, capable, qualified, and passionate, but the only problem? He sounded just the same and just like everybody else. His materials and perceived value collapsed compared to others, and his message got lost in the noise. How could I help him provide better materials in his responses to influence reviewers to build more persuasive perceptions of him? One trick was ask a different question. I asked him, what kind of results does this company pride themselves on delivering for their clients? Unsure of my question, he asked for further clarification. So I added, okay, let's pull up the client testimonials from their homepage on their website, right? What results do they consistently highlight from their favorite doctors? After scanning his phone, he said, well, gosh, here's one doctor that talks about how much time this company saved him, right, because of their help. So nudging further, I asked, and what do you think that doctor did instead with that additional time? Well, he responded. He said he probably used it to help and serve more patients, and I agreed. So I said, so this company features solutions that save time for physicians. Now, my question is, what gets you excited about helping doctors save time? Do you have an experience where you or your family benefited from a doctor who took a little extra time to serve you? He had this excited look on his face. He said, actually, yeah. And then he proceeded to tell me how his wife had this difficult hospital stay for the birth of their son. And this one doctor went above and beyond to help. So I asked, what if you reframed your purpose? Instead of presenting your qualifications just like everyone else, right? That you know it, you can do the job, you have experience. What if you said that you want to sell this software program for this company to help doctors avoid cumbersome paperwork and instead help more patients, just like this one helped you? He sat stunned. He never considered that angle before. And we talked further about more strategies. Even better, I'm pleased to say that after months of effort, he finally got the job offer that he'd been looking for so long. One reason, he changed how he communicated and thus altered the materials he provided for people to build their perceptions of him. Now, my question is, can you see a difference between I have years of experience and I can do this job versus your company helps doctors devote more time providing life-saving care for their patients, and I want to help more doctors do that even more? And let me tell you why, my personal story as to how this connects and why this matters. Between those two, right, which perception are you more influenced to choose? It's the same guy, same qualifications, and the same abilities at the core, right? But the materials behind the message meant the difference between collapse or opening the space for more opportunities, just like my house. So what's the message you sent? Is it creating the perception and results that you want? Check out the Influence Mindset if you want to upgrade the materials you give to decision makers to choose you. At the end of the day, it all depends on how you frame and bracket it. Just ask Mike and my contractor. Thanks so much for spending time with me this week. See you next time.